There's a kind of tired that doesn't come from work. It comes from having no one to tag in. Jason had that look. Not the kind you get from the gym or a job site, but the kind earned by doing school pickups at 3:15, reheating last night's dinner with one eye on overdue bills, and folding unicorn pajamas while pretending your back doesn't hurt. He was in aisle 7 at the grocery store, frozen peas in one hand, birthday cake in the other, no cart, no list, just instinct. His daughter, Sophie, age 6, gap-toothed, unstoppable, had requested a cake with pink stuff and dinosaurs. So far, he had found neither. A woman in heels nearly crashed into him with a champagne bottle. "Sorry," she muttered, not looking, then did a double take, her eyes narrowed. Not with recognition, with curiosity. "You okay there?" she asked. Jason blinked. "What gave me away?" She smiled, tilted her head. "You look like someone trying to survive a birthday on a budget." Jason raised the cake. "How can you tell?" She gestured to his boots. "Those are either military or a very committed Halloween costume." He smiled faintly. "Former." She nodded, intrigued. "Let me guess, quiet, protective, probably does carpentry in the garage to avoid crying." Jason's eyebrows lifted. "Do people really cry in garages?" She stepped closer. "Only the honest ones. You ever see someone flirt so confidently, you assume they're either drunk, rich, or both? Yeah, this woman was both and more. Quick question, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Could be Brooklyn, could be Belfast. And if this scene makes you smile, flinch, or whisper, don't do it, Jason. Go on and hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next, it's not just about a birthday cake. It's about what a man's really worth and who gets to decide. Her name was Arden Vale, fortune from tech, fame from controversy. Once trended for buying a senator's lake house just to bulldoze it. Jason had no idea who she was. That's what caught her attention. The next night, he found a note tucked in Sophie's backpack. It wasn't handwritten. It was printed on thick, expensive paper with a monogram logo he didn't recognize. "Mr. Statham, I'd like to offer you $1 million for one evening of your time. No strings, no obligations, no explanation owed. Just dinner. My driver will wait. AV." He thought it was a prank. Then looked outside. A black SUV idled at the curb. Sophie was asleep, pajamas on, a sticker stuck to her forehead. Jason double-checked the locks, kissed her cheek, and stepped outside. The driver didn't speak. Just opened the door. Arden sat in the back, looking like someone who'd never been told no without firing the person who said it. Jason slid in, calm, jacket zipped, nothing to lose. He didn't speak first. She liked that. "I meant what I said," she told him. Jason looked out the window. "I'm not for sale," she smiled. "It's not that kind of night." Silence. Then what kind is it?" She leaned forward slightly. Her perfume was expensive and infuriating. "The kind where I get to ask a man who's seen war why he shops for pink dinosaur cakes with the same intensity most CEOs use to plan acquisitions." Jason chuckled once. Dry. Low. "You ever clean vomit off your shoulder at 3 a.m. with one hand while holding an iPad playing Mona with the other?" She blinked. "No." "Then I'm the wrong person to ask." The restaurant wasn't public. It wasn't even listed. Jason guessed it used to be a bank. There were only 2 seats, no waiters, just a chef behind glass. The food looked like it came with a bank statement. Jason ate like someone raised on ration packs. She watched him with quiet fascination. After the main course, she finally said it. "Why'd you say yes?" Jason didn't answer immediately. Then, "Because I wanted to look someone in the eye who could drop 7 figures on a stranger and still be curious what pain tastes like." She froze. That wasn't the answer she expected. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" she asked. Jason shook his head. "You have a driver. You carry the kind of perfume that costs more than a mortgage, and you offered $1 million for a conversation." Pause. "That tells me everything I need." She stared at him, and for the first time that night, blinked like someone feeling vulnerable. Later on the rooftop, she lit a cigarette without asking. Jason didn't comment. She looked out at the skyline. You think I'm crazy, don't you? Jason tilted his head. I think you're lonely in a loud way, she laughed. That's new. Then offered the cigarette. Jason declined. Quit after my daughter asked why it made me smell like grandpa, she smiled. Smart girl. She's smarter than me. Arden's eyes glinted. So why are you still struggling? Jason shrugged. Because when she was born, I swore I'd never trade time for money again. Pause. But tonight, I needed to see if my price had changed. The ride back was quiet. Before he got out, she stopped him. I don't need anything from you. Jason nodded. But if I did, he looked her in the eye, I'd still say no, she smirked. Even if I doubled it. He stepped out without answering. That night, Sophie rolled over in her sleep and muttered something about dinosaurs riding scooters. Jason smiled in the dark, then stared at the envelope Arden had slipped in his coat, still unopened, but heavy, and not just with money. With whatever came next, the envelope sat untouched for 3 days. Jason had placed it in the kitchen drawer, just beneath the plastic forks and expired coupons. Sophie had almost found it once while looking for glitter glue. Dad, why is there so much money paper in here? Classified, he'd replied, sliding it shut. She didn't ask again. She was too busy organizing her stuffed animals into a pyramid formation that definitely wasn't for battle, but might turn into one. Jason smiled at that, but his eyes kept flicking back to that drawer. At the grocery store, he saw Arden again. She wasn't shopping, she was waiting, leaning against the floral display like someone who'd never bought their own flowers. I'm not stalking you, she said as he passed. I didn't say you were. She nodded at his basket. You forgot the carrots. He didn't break stride. They're overrated. She walked beside him. Are you always like this? Like what? Untouchable. He stopped. You offered $1 million for a night. What kind of touch are we talking about? Her smile didn't waver, but her voice dropped. Don't pretend you don't know it wasn't about that. They met again. This time he chose the location, a diner, vinyl booths, coffee that tasted like it remembered the 1980s. Arden looked out of place, but she didn't complain. I needed a reminder, Jason said, of that normal exists. She told him things that didn't belong on magazine covers, how she hadn't spoken to her mother in 12 years, how her first company was stolen from her by someone she loved, how silence was her currency and she was bankrupt. Jason didn't interrupt, didn't nod. He just listened. And it shook her more than any therapy session ever had. That night back home, Jason finally opened the envelope. It wasn't money, it was a letter, typed, precise. You reminded me that people like you still exist. This isn't payment, it's a request. I need you for something. Not as a soldier, not as a man, but as a father. There was an address attached, and a date, tomorrow. He showed up because curiosity is louder than caution. It was a private school, the kind with gates that cost more than most apartments. He wore jeans. No jacket, no badge. Inside, Arden waited. But this time she wasn't smiling. She pointed to a glass window behind it, a girl, about Sophie's age alone, drawing. Jason raised an eyebrow. She yours. Arden nodded once. Her name's Emma. Emma didn't look up much, didn't interact. The teacher, patient and tired, hovered without pushing. She doesn't speak, Arden said quietly. She used to, she added after a pause. Jason didn't say anything, because some things don't need responses, just presence. In the parking lot, she finally explained. Her father was in intelligence, off books, Europe detail. Jason knew the type. Mission went wrong, she said. They found his body in an unmarked grave. No dog tags, no closure. She paused. Emma stopped talking the day they told her. Jason exhaled slowly. I don't want her to forget what safe feels like, Arden said, and she won't believe me when I say it's possible. He turned toward her. So you want me to show her? She nodded. You're the first man I've seen who knows how to talk without noise. He didn't answer. But he didn't walk away either. The next week was slow, purposeful. Jason wasn't introduced as a bodyguard or babysitter, just Jason. He played chess with Emma in the garden, lost intentionally, then not so intentionally. He showed her how to fix a bike tire, taught her how to make toast without burning it. One afternoon, he brought Sophie. They didn't click right away. But then they both realized they hated Brussels sprouts and loved wolves. That was enough. Arden watched from a distance, always watching, always doubting. "You're not asking for help," Jason told her one evening. "You're asking for repair." Arden didn't argue, because he was right. The media caught wind eventually. Paparazzi shots of Jason leaving her estate. Headlines: "Mystery man in billionaire's orbit. Who is he?" Arden's PR team begged for a response. She gave none. Jason suggested an interview. She laughed. "You offering?" "No, just saying I've survived worse interrogations." Then came the call. Late at night, Jason answered half asleep. Arden panicked. "Emma's missing." He was in the car before his boots were laced, found her within 20 minutes, back at the school, sitting under the old oak tree where her father used to read to her. Jason didn't say anything, just sat beside her. After a while, she spoke. "I don't want to forget his voice." Jason nodded. "Then don't, but you can make room for others too." She leaned her head on his arm, didn't cry, didn't move, just breathed. Arden watched from the driveway when they returned. She looked at Jason like she didn't know whether to thank him or apologize. He nodded once, then walked past her. That night, he found a second envelope. No monogram, no message, just the million. Cashier's check. Jason stared at it, then fed it 1 inch at a time into the shredder, because this was never about money, it was about value. And that Jason already had. They say peace is the space between alarms. Jason had about 12 days of it. 12 days of toast crumbs, garden chess games, and bike rides around a property line protected by 5 layers of private security. 12 days where Sophie and Emma laughed over nothing, where Arden almost smiled like it didn't cost her anything. And then it ended, with a phone call Jason didn't want and a name he thought was buried. "Mr. Statham," the voice said. "It's about someone from Munich." Jason froze, not visibly, not dramatically. But something in his eyes dimmed, like a switch was flipped somewhere deep. The next morning, he stood at the edge of the property, facing the security camera. Arden met him by the fountain. "You heard something," she said. "No hello." He nodded. "They're watching again." She didn't ask who or why, but she stepped closer. "I thought you left that life." Jason looked out past the hedges. "They don't let you leave. They just wait until you're quiet enough to think they forgot." At Emma's school, the headmaster called Arden in. There'd been an incident. Nothing physical. Just a man in a delivery uniform who didn't have a package and didn't leave when asked. He kept asking for the Statham girl, the headmaster whispered. "Not Emma, Sophie." Jason listened quietly, then walked out without comment. He checked Sophie out of school early. Drove with the windows down, eyes flicking to mirrors without her noticing. "Where are we going?" she asked. He smiled. "Somewhere with pancakes," she cheered. He didn't. Back at Arden's, Jason met with the head of security, showed him a photo, grainy, unpleasant. "This man gets within 200 feet of anyone here," Jason said. "I want to know before his second foot lands." The head nodded, didn't ask questions, because he recognized the look in Jason's eyes, the kind of look that meant the jacket may be in the closet, but the soldier was back on shift. Later, Jason sat by the pool. Alone, he pulled out a burner phone. One of the last, dialed. The voice that answered wasn't surprised. "Took you long enough." Jason's voice was low. "You sent him. We needed to know if you were still capable." Jason's grip tightened. "You just made this personal." "It was always personal, Jason." That night, Arden approached quietly. "You think this is about me?" she asked. Jason didn't answer, so she kept going. "I didn't choose you because you were safe. I chose you because you're not." Jason turned toward her. "You think danger is a fix?" She stepped closer. "I think it's the only language they understand." Pause. "Jason, I didn't bring you into this for Emma." Jason blinked. "What?" "I brought you in because they were circling again, and I knew if they saw you near me, they'd hesitate." Silence. "And because I knew," she added, "you wouldn't run." Jason walked away, not fast, not angry, just measured, and that scared her more. He sat outside Sophie's door that night, listened to her breathing, watched the shadows stretch long. His hand rested on the old knife inside his jacket. Not paranoia, preparation. Because someone had poked the wrong part of the past, and it was waking up. The next morning, the check returned, this time with a note. "You shredded the money. Will you shred the silence too?" Jason didn't reply. Instead, he met with Anton, a name he hadn't called in years. They met at a car wash in Vienna. Jason handed over a USB. "I need a list," he said. Anton looked at him. "Is this about her or about you?" Jason replied. Same answer either way. Meanwhile, Arden faced her board. They wanted answers about Jason, about the headlines, about why their founder had brought in a man with no credentials and a history nobody could verify. "I don't answer to fear," she said, one executive replied. "You do when it's yours." Emma started drawing darker things. Her old silence returned. Jason noticed, tried to reach her, but Arden pushed him away. "She's spiraling," he said. "I know," Arden whispered, "and I can't stop it." Jason took her hand, first time, no romance, just solidarity. Anton's intel came back. One name glowed red: Comb Weaver. Black Ops broker. Last seen coordinating hits through charity auctions. He'd targeted Sophie because Jason had said no years ago. Jason stared at the name like it was written in fire. Anton asked, "You want a clean hit?" Jason shook his head. "I want a message." That night, Jason left without telling Arden. No note, no sound, just air where his presence used to be. 3 hours later, in Prague, Comb Weaver walked into a suite. The lights were already on. Jason was waiting, drinking his bourbon. "Sit," he said. Comb didn't move, so Jason stood. And Comb sat. The camera didn't catch what was said, only that Comb staggered out bleeding from a place no one could identify. The message was clear: "Don't touch my kid. Don't test my past." Jason returned to Arden's estate before sunrise. She met him in the driveway, didn't speak. Didn't slap him, just hugged him, tight, like she'd finally exhaled. Sophie and Emma sat on the lawn the next day, drawing dinosaurs and eating cereal straight from the box. Arden watched. Jason watched her. She whispered, "Why did I bring this into your world?" Jason replied, "You didn't. You just reminded me I never left it." And then Emma spoke, just one word. Jason, he looked up, smiled. "Yeah," she pointed to her sketchbook. It was a drawing, him, her, Sophie, and Arden, all standing together, no weapons, just holding hands. Jason knelt beside her, said nothing. Because sometimes peace is just a word spoken after silence, and sometimes that's enough. There's a moment in every soldier's life when the mission stops being the point and starts becoming the excuse. Jason had reached that moment, not when the threats came. Not even when the name Comb Weaver resurfaced. It was now, watching his daughter play with someone else's child like nothing in the world could interrupt them. That's what scared him, because peace is fragile, and he knew the sound of it breaking better than anyone. The headlines rolled in faster now. Billionaire's mystery man revealed. Ex-military, single father, unknown clearance. Is Arden Vale compromised? Sources say Statham operated off-books in multiple nations. Why was he with her daughter? Jason didn't flinch when he saw it, but Arden did. Her board demanded answers. Her lawyers offered damage control. Her security chief handed in a resignation letter with the words, "I can't cover someone who doesn't stay still." She asked Jason, "Is this what happens when you try to do the right thing?" Jason replied, "No. This is what happens when you do it with someone who scares cowards." That night, someone set fire to Jason's car. It wasn't subtle, it was a warning, and it didn't work. Because Jason had been warned by better men, and this time, he wasn't alone. He found the bug inside Arden's bedroom the next day, planted behind a painting, professionally done, which meant someone close. He showed it to her. She didn't cry, didn't panic, just whispered, "Then let them listen." She stepped in front of the camera at a press conference 48 hours later. No legal team, no media consultant, Just Arden in a black blazer standing behind a podium. She said, "The man you've all been speculating about isn't mine. He isn't my security. He isn't my lover. He's something you can't put in a headline. He's a man who said no to $1 million. A man who chose a child's silence over a billionaire's invitation. A man who rebuilt trust one moment at a time, not with money, not with force, but with patience. I brought him into my life because I wanted to feel safe. He stayed because he wanted someone else to feel whole. And if that scares you, good, maybe it should." Silence followed, then noise, but Jason didn't hear any of it. He was busy helping Emma tie her shoelaces. Comb Weaver vanished the next day. Jason didn't ask how. Anton just left a message, resolved. Not dead. Just forgotten by the wrong people, Jason replied. Good. Arden's company took a hit. 3 sponsors pulled, 1 board member resigned, but her stock, it went up. Because people don't like perfect billionaires, they like ones who bleed publicly and don't apologize for it. Jason didn't move in, didn't change zip codes, didn't suddenly wear suits or switch to alkaline water, but he showed up, every day, to breakfast, to bedtime, to things men usually let work or trauma talk them out of. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. One morning, Sophie handed him a crayon drawing. It was him, in the middle. Emma and Arden beside him, and across the top, in uneven handwriting, "Jason the Dad." He stared at it for longer than he meant to, then folded it like it was the most classified thing he'd ever carried. One reporter asked Arden later, "What did he do, really?" She answered, "He stayed." Weeks passed. The world moved on. Jason didn't. He took Sophie to school, taught Emma how to float in a pool without fear, replaced a busted fence, fixed Arden's coffee grinder without being asked. One day, Arden said, "You know, the offer's still technically on the table." Jason raised an eyebrow. 1 million, she shook her head. Dinner, just dinner. Jason smirked. "You sure I'm not above your pay grade now?" She laughed, and didn't deny it. At a school assembly, Emma raised her hand during a Q&A. The teacher asked, "Who inspires you?" Emma answered, "My dad." People looked confused. She looked proud. Jason looked down, didn't cry, just clenched his jaw like someone who didn't realize his heart had weight. Arden later asked, "Did you mean to become this important to us?" Jason looked out at the lawn, at 2 girls dancing to music no one else could hear. "No," he said, "but I stayed long enough for it to happen." In the final shot, Jason walks out of the store where it all began. Same boots. Same quiet walk, same cake in his hand, this time dinosaurs and pink frosting. Behind him, the clerk stares at the total on the receipt, eyes wide. "You sure you want to spend that much?" Jason shrugs. "Yeah, because sometimes the most valuable thing a man can do is spend what others would hoard and give what no one can buy."